The way you're taking notes probably looks something like this. You watch a video, you read a book, you sit through a class that actually doesn't suck for once, and at some point you come across something that feels like a gem. A quote, an insight, a strategy. And you think to yourself like, oh, like this is great. I should write it down somewhere so I don't forget it. So you jot it down maybe in a notebook, maybe in Google Docs, or if you're a bit further down the productivity rabbit hole, then maybe even in Notion. But here's the truth. You're not actually getting any smarter. And I say this because I wasn't getting any smarter doing this. Even though I was doing everything right by the standard advice. I wrote down what I learned, I summarized key ideas, and I put them all into neat little folders. But despite all of that, something felt off. I found a massive difference between knowing something and then knowing what the fuck to do with it. The difference is the line between knowledge and wisdom. I think knowledge is collecting facts and wisdom is connecting them. For me, it's about knowing how that one thing I learned in organizational psychology a week ago connects to the conversations in my intimate relationships, which connects to my values, which ties back to that philosophy paper I wrote 2 months ago. But the way most people take notes doesn't allow any of that to happen in their brain. But I think with Obsidian, it will. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to master Obsidian in the simplest and least overwhelming way you can find anywhere on the internet. However, here's the catch. If you're only here for the simple technical setup tutorial, I'm telling you now, you're gonna miss the point completely because you won't get the real power of Obsidian simply by setting it up correctly. It's not the folders, it's not the plugins, it's not the fancy graph view, it's not any of that. It's in how you think about learning. And if you don't understand that deeper philosophy, then like your Obsidian is just gonna go to waste, like your Notion or your Google Drive or whatever. But if you do get the deeper why behind all of this setup, then you're not only going to have the best note-taking software out there, but you're going to build exponential wisdom. I wholeheartedly believe that you will end this video with a system that makes you smarter for the rest of your life. So when I'm telling you that the way you're taking notes is probably not making you smarter, then I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that because I was doing the exact same thing. And the dumbest part was that I actually thought that I was being smart about it. Before I discovered Obsidian, I had what I called my book of wisdom. That was my idea of how to finally organize everything I was learning into one place. It was this shitty binder full of loose sheets of paper where I proudly labeled categories like health, wealth, relationships, and happiness. And it felt really smart at first, like, damn, look at me, I'm building my own personal library of wisdom. But here's the thing, it didn't work. Like, at all. Because what I didn't realize back then is this. Real life doesn't work in categories. Your relationships affect your health shapes your productivity is tied to your values, and your values are probably shaped by some random movie you watched as a kid. But in my system, I wasn't letting any of those ideas interact with each other. So even though I was spending all this time keeping my book of wisdom up to date, I wasn't actually getting any smarter. I was just getting really good at feeling productive. And feeling productive without actually getting any smarter, I think that's probably one of the worst spots to be in, because you don't even realize that you're stuck. But here's the thing, whether you have no system or a crazy complex system, I think neither of them is helping you build wisdom the same way Obsidian could, because most apps are designed to make you feel productive. But feeling productive is not the same thing as actually getting any wiser. Now, there's one more argument most people intuitively understand, but never act on. Even if you do write things down, even if you're a genius note taker, you're most likely going to forget about 70% of what you write down within the first 24 hours. And I'm not exaggerating. It's called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, and what it shows is really simple. If you don't come back to what you've learned, your brain deletes it. It's that simple. The solution is spaced repetition, the practice of revisiting ideas over time so they become a part of who you are. But here's the problem. Almost every single note-taking system out there is not built for that. Google Docs, Notion, Evernote, all of them give you no reason to ever revisit your notes. Once you save them, you simply forget them. But the thing that makes Obsidian so different is that if you set it up the right way, then it forces you to re-expose yourself to your ideas. And that's the key. Obsidian is the only note-taking software out there I've found that actually supports the way wisdom is built. You can see it right here in the graph view. You zoom out and you see all your thoughts, all your ideas, all your notes as they truly are, interconnected. All right, so let's get into how to actually set this up. Step 1, download Obsidian from obsidian.md. It's free, it's offline, and it stores files locally on your computer. It's really simple. So we go to obsidian.md and we press get Obsidian. It's gonna download it. We're gonna press save, and then we're gonna open it. Now, Obsidian is gonna ask you to create a vault, and a vault is nothing scary. It's simply a folder. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna press on create, and we're gonna pick a name. You can name your vault whatever you want. I'm gonna simply name mine Jonas New Vault, because that's what it is. If you have something like iCloud or Google Drive or anything like that, you can store it on there if you're scared of losing your computer. For the sake of this video, I'm simply gonna store my vault on my desktop. So here, I've got the desktop selected, open, and create. Now, for the sake of simplicity, what I would recommend that we do is we close the graph view and we delete the welcome node. And again, this setup is really simple. So all we need to do now is create 3 folders. To create a folder, right click into this field and click new folder. I would denote it with a 1, so it's organized like that. You can press 1 space dash 1, and then we're gonna call this raw notes. That's where all your unlinked notes go, books you read, podcasts you listen to, conversations you have, classes you attend, all of it just unedited. It's kind of like your inbox for learning. So the second folder you're going to create are indices. They're going to stay empty for now, but these are the hubs where you start to see clusters of ideas. So for example, for me, it's often entrepreneurship, relationships, greatness, meaning. And when one of these areas starts getting a ton of linked notes, it becomes an index. And the third thing we create is the Zettelkasten. This is where everything else goes. So your tags, your templates, your reflections, your journal entries, your mini essays, everything which I will explain over the coming few minutes. And the last thing I would create if I were you, but this is personal because some people use a to-do list in different apps. I like having a page, so a new note, which I will call Life Dashboard, which we can fill out later with simple to-do lists. All right, so let's talk about templates and tags. So the structure that actually makes this whole system usable. Because even though this 3-folder setup I just gave you is a good foundation, the real power comes from how we actually structure the notes inside of those folders and how we connect them. The first thing you'll want to set up is a folder for templates. These are just like pre-built note structures that will save you from having to start from scratch every single time and actually allow you to just focus on writing and thinking. Obsidian makes this super simple because they have a core plugin, which they simply call templates, and you just need to go into your settings, activate it, and then tell Obsidian where the templates are stored. I personally keep all my templates in a folder inside my Zettelkasten. All right, so here are some of the main templates I use. In order to create a template, we're gonna simply create a new note within the folder of the template. So we're gonna right click on the template folder and click new note. So now in here, this is already a template. Now we can name it and then design the template itself. I will call this a general note. We can start writing in here. And basically what you want to do is set up whatever you want the general structure or skeleton of your general notes to be, so you can simply always insert this template whenever you create a new general note. The first thing I'll include is the date. You can simply write 2 squiggly brackets with Option 8 on Mac and then put date inside of it, and then it will automatically insert that date, whatever date you're writing the note on. And the next line would be tags, which I'll explain to you in a moment. You can just write tags there. Next, we can put the title of the note, again with 2 squiggly brackets and writing title inside of it and putting a hashtag in front of it so it is a heading. Then leave some space and then put some references beneath where we can link any references we have to this specific general note. I'll leave a link to all the templates I use down below in the description completely for free. I'll show you some more of my templates here now. Firstly, we have the academic note, again, with a few other things. So again, we use the date as always. Then we're going to link to course, whatever course it is that I'm taking a note on. Again, tags. But down below, we have 3 different headings now, which are basically an adaptation of the Cornell notes system, where you have terms, so the specific terms I learned in that class, notes, like general notes from that class, and a summary, because summaries help with actually retaining the information. Then what we want to do is simply set up a shortcut on your keyboard for inserting those templates. So you can just always easily and quickly insert the templates whenever you're writing on a new note. To do that, we want to go to the settings down here, go to hotkeys, and then in the filter, search for template. For inserting template, you're going to see it's blank. We're going to press plus. And what I do personally is Option T, but you can do whatever feels most comfortable to you. Then we can close this, create a new note, and then see what happens. New note. Now when we press Option T, we have the choice between the academic note and the general note. Let's say I want the general note. I click it, and now the date automatically got inserted. The tags are empty. The title is the same title as up here, new note, and the space for references is down here. And you saved yourself the time of actually having to type that out every single time again and again. Now let's talk about tags. In my system, tags are everything. So to get started with tags, we want to create a folder for our tags. We can close this folder, the template folder, and again in the Zettelkasten, right click on it, new folder, and this one we're gonna call B-tags. So it's really simple to start using tags. Let's say this new note we created here before will all be about self-discipline. So in the tag section, we're going to click here and we're going to double press Option 5, which will create 2 square brackets. And 2 square brackets in Obsidian means tag. Within those 2 square brackets, we're going to give our tag a name. So in this case, self-discipline. And it's going to say no match found. Don't worry about it, just like press enter. And after you press enter, you're gonna see that it looks a bit grayed out. What you're gonna do is you're gonna hover over it, click it, and as you just saw, it created a new note called self-discipline. But it's not stored in our tags folder. You can do it the hard way of like taking the self-discipline note and dragging it into the tags folder and putting it there. Or you can go up here to the 3 dots, move file to, look for tags and click tags, and it got moved into the tags folder. And from now on, every single new note that you write about self-discipline can be connected to this tag. Let me show you. So we had this new note here that was connected to self-discipline. So we're gonna write very important, blah, blah. But then we want to create another note. We're gonna go to plus, create new note 2, Option T, the inserting template hotkey we learned before, insert a general note again. Also about discipline, blah, blah. And we're gonna tag it as well with the same tag, self-discipline. And now both of these topics are linked to self-discipline, which is absolutely amazing. All right, so we have 2 notes, and both of them are linked to self-discipline. This seems a bit useless right now, but I'm going to show you why this is so cool. If now we go to self-discipline, we see nothing. But Obsidian has this cool thing called backlinks, which are automatically installed. So you go to your settings, core plugins, and you see backlinks. All you have to do is activate it. Now we have to refresh the page. So we create a new tab and open self-discipline again. And now we can see every single note in all of our Obsidian where we ever mentioned the tag self-discipline. This is incredibly powerful because now it doesn't matter which folder your note is in, or like when you wrote it, or if it's like really old or really new. Every single time you mention self-discipline with a tag, it will show up down here in the linked mentions of self-discipline. I have tags for pretty much every single topic I care about, from entrepreneurship to lifting to neuroanatomy to relationships to discipline to meaning. All of these things got turned into tags. And I want to take you through what it would actually look like to use Obsidian in everyday life now. In order to do that, we'll look at this kind of like lecture by Jonathan B. on Nietzsche's Genealogy of Morality. I listened to it. I really loved it. It was a great lecture. You're going to follow me through how I would personally use Obsidian in order to get the most out of listening to this. So I would go into Obsidian, and before we start, I would do something, which is in our raw notes right now, we have nothing. No podcast, no classes, no books, no nothing. But whenever we put something in there, like we will do now, we would also need a template for that. So let's create a new template for our raw notes. So in our raw notes, we've got the date. We'll have the title as well, and the references. And as always, we'll move to the 3 dots up here, go to move file to, and then we'll look for templates and move this thing into our templates. So now if we look into our Zettelkasten templates, we've got academic note, general note, and raw notes. All right, so now let's actually get into how you would use this. We would create a new note, and I personally just like titling it whatever the source material is I'm actually looking at. So for example, in this case, I'll just try to copy the title of this. There'll be a little error message because Obsidian doesn't allow signs like this. Yep. Replace it with a comma. And now we're going to press Option T, which is my personal hotkey for adding a template. We're going to give it the raw notes template. And then I'm going to drag it up here into the podcasts, because I think the closest thing for this is a podcast. If you would want to have a new category in your raw notes, something like lectures on philosophy or something like that. If you listen to lectures on philosophy very frequently, then that might be a smart thing to do. And then within this note, all I will do is take detailed notes on whatever I'm listening to. There will be no reflection. It'll have nothing to do with my personal ideas. It will just be like dry notes on whatever it is that I'm learning about in this thing. So let me do that real quick. All right, so I pasted my notes I already wrote on this in here. And as you can see, there's simply notes on the session itself. There's no reflection from my end. It's simply notes on the session itself. And what I'll do next is I'll look through those notes and I'll look for an idea that catches my attention. And if I find an idea like that, then I will create a new general note out of it. So for example, in this lecture by Jonathan B., he frequently points out how it's not so smart to completely base your life on one philosopher's opinions. So how you should kind of be critical of every philosopher you come across. And that is something that really stood out to me. So what I will do next is I will create a general note that is linked to this source material and that kind of synthesizes the core idea I got from it. So what we'll do is we'll go up here, we'll create a new note, and we'll title it something fitting. Be critical of every philosopher. And again, we have our hotkey, Option T, and we're gonna make a general note. And now in this case, as we remember from before, we added a references section. The reference for this specific general note would be our raw note on the podcast itself. So how do we reference it? Again, the same way you would write a tag. So we make 2 square brackets. For me, that would be Option 5 pressed twice. I'm gonna do that. And it's already here, but you can find it if you just look for the title of that general note. Now we've got a link down here. So if we want to check our notes, we can simply click on it and it's gonna open it. And we can go back up here. So in this note, I will write my personal reflection. It will have much less to do with the actual thing I listen to, but much more with what my insights from this are, what this means for my personal life. So here's my personal reflection of what it means to be critical of every philosopher in the context of this podcast. Now, in order to complete this note, we want to give it tags as well. So the more tags we create, the more interconnection we're going to see in this entire system. So one fitting tag for this whole thing Could be Nietzsche. Nietzsche frequently comes up again and again and again with many of the things we're exposed to nowadays still. Like he just lives on. So that could be a fitting tag. So we're going to create 2 square brackets here. We're going to write Nietzsche. And that is our tag. But as you can see again, this tag is grayed out. What do? We click on the tag. And now from here, as always, the 3 dots, move file to, we'll look for tags and move it to the tags. And now it's in the tags. This is how we keep the system still kind of organized without getting too messy. Now we can go back and we've got a complete general node. It has the date, it has a tag, it has the context, and it has the reference to the original raw node. And what I would personally always do is drag our general nodes into our Zettelkasten. And as you can see, it's already getting more and more crowded here. All right, so lastly, let's say theoretically this node also had something to do with self-discipline. What would we do? Well, we would tag it with self-discipline. So let's do that real quick. All right, so now it's also tagged with self-discipline. And if you remember from before, our new node 2, and this one now are tagged with self-discipline. And now that means we can check out the graph view. We'll click plus here. And in order to open the graph view, you can simply press Command G. And as we can see here, our node system is starting to form. But the interesting thing we can see here is how Nietzsche's genealogy of morality has something to do with our node from before, even though it's not directly connected, even though it's not the same topic, even though it's not even in the same folder, they're still somehow connected. And with time, this network is going to grow and you're going to see the connections between topics you've never thought that had anything to do with each other. Now at this point, 3 of our nodes relate to self-discipline, which is already quite a lot. And the idea here is that if a tag gets mentioned many, many, many times, then it should be an index. We simply click on self-discipline. But the interesting thing about Obsidian is that if we tag something here with that system we used before with the 2 square brackets, it actually doesn't create a different kind of thing like a fancy tag. It's just simply a note, which is really powerful because now within the self-discipline node, we can simply turn it into an index. In order to do that, I would give the self-discipline tag subcategories. So for example, self-discipline in the context of philosophy. And then self-discipline in the context of general ideas, whatever it is, because we have nothing fancy down here. And then in order to actually make this an effective index, we hover down here and we can click it and pull it up here and drag it. So philosophy, be critical of every philosopher. General ideas, we'll drag these 2 on here. New node and new node 2. And now our self-discipline tag, in my opinion, should be upgraded to a self-discipline index. So we click up here, move file to, and instead of keeping it in the tags folder in our Zettelkasten where we stored it before, we now move it to 2 indices. Click here, collapse everything here for a moment. And now the very cool thing is what we can see here. So we have Nietzsche, which is still a normal tag, just has one thing down here. Wow, interesting, not so cool. If we go up here to indices, we have our first index, self-discipline. We click on it, and now we can see every single node that relates to self-discipline that we've ever written. In my opinion, this is way more flexible of a system than any folder system could ever be, because you can add multiple tags to a single node. And with time, you don't have to actually upkeep it every day, because all the nodes that have links to self-discipline will just be collected down here. And just every couple of weeks, I do it probably around once a week, I drag all the nodes that have something to do with self-discipline back up here to organize it. All right, but here's the most important thing I want you to take away from this entire video if you've made it this far. Please experiment to just make your own system. That's the beauty of Obsidian, because it doesn't force you into any box. There's no correct system, and there's no one productivity guru that can tell you about what the exactly perfect setup for you is, because no one knows the insides of your brain as well as you do. And honestly, I've seen this firsthand. I've got friends like Ismail and John, shout out guys, who are beasts when it comes to strategic and creative thinking. and they took their own Obsidian into a completely different direction. There's just no limit. They figured out what worked for them, because that's the point. Your system should grow around your mind and not the other way around. Now, my name is Jonah. I'm 19 years old and I'm on a mission to help as many young people as possible with having a healthy relationship to their technology. If you're intrigued by the idea of making your technology work for you rather than against you, then maybe check out this video next about how I set up my Mac so it doesn't ruin my life. And much love, Jonah.